Hi, it's Joy, and today we're watching Young Royals, Season 1, Episode 1. I am very excited to watch this show. Thank you so much, Tim, for sponsoring it. It's been on my radar. I've seen people really enjoying it, so I'm very intrigued about it. And yeah, I'm excited to go on this journey. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can find the unedited version of this reaction on my Patreon, thanks to the wonderful Tim. And these reactions went up in December and January of 2022 to 2023. So yeah, let's go. Yep. Basically, all I know about this show is I feel like, because I saw a little bit of a trailer when it first came out on Netflix, he's in some sort of scandal, evidently, and he gets sent to some school. I also believe that he's gay, and we respect this. And we hope he's gonna do better. Also, just a side note, I am anti-monarchist, but that will not make me affect my enjoyment of the show. This does seem like a foolish young person escapade.
Beslutat att omgående börja på Hillerska riksinternat.
Ja.
Det stämmer inte, jag har inte snackat med mina föräldrar överhuvudtaget.
Nej, jag är ledsen men det är redan...
Like, yes, obviously going to some sort of nightclub when you're a child and getting in a fight isn't good. Parents should freaking speak to him about it before they decide this kind of thing. I wonder why he's acting out.
Seriöst? Ja, utan mig.
Du är bara tyst.
Talk to him about it in private.
Komma in i rutiner och få rätt umgänge. Sluta!
Definitely a loving family. Monarchies are toxic both for the nations they're in and for the people inside them. Loving, warm family. I mean, I'm sure they do love each other. But I wonder why he was acting out. No one should have to grow up in this kind of environment. But yes, he's extraordinarily privileged. At the end of the day, he's a kid who made a dumb choice. He shouldn't have to give a speech to the nation about it. I mean, this might be nice for you. Get away from your family and the pressures of the Swedish version of the firm. Look, the idea of going to a boarding school does sound like hell to me. But there's probably a degree of freedom there because you don't have parents. Probably when he first arrives, people will be like, oh my god, that's the prince, looking at him. But they're also all rich, pretentious people, so... So awkward. He just wants to not, I'm guessing, not be pampered all the time. And a lot of privilege that does come with being a rich prince. A lot of pressures as well. Even this move, it doesn't feel like he's being sent to this school out of a genuine desire to, like, look out for him. It's just to look out for the image of his family. It's ridiculous. Like, just monarchies, they're evil. God, the school choir welcoming the prince. He's just a new student transferring. Sorry, I'm very anti-monarchist, but I do care about the characters in the show. Like, I already want Wilhelm to be happy and escape his family. Or find a way to be at peace with both. Lovely voice. He's a lovely voice. You like him? See, there are good things in this strange school too. Because his brother's spoken to him once beyond ordering him around. Okay. This is nicer. Because he knows what it's like. Snobs. Honestly, like, sending your already privileged posh child to a school full of privileged posh children is just guaranteed to ensure they become Tories. They become little snobbish little bitches, what all the posh people want. It's why they send them to posh boarding schools. Sorry, I have extra opinions about these subjects, and I'm not going to hold back.
Bara bra för dig. Allt du gör speglar oss som familj. Du måste sluta tänka bara på dig själv. Det är inte så svårt. Du måste kunna hålla upp en fasad också.
I have so many opinions on this sort of subject because like it's true what he's saying, but it shouldn't. No one should have to grow up that way. Like one of the many reasons we should abolish the monarchy is for what it does to the young people who endure it. But yeah, what he does reflects on the family, but he's also a teenager. Like all teenagers, I mean, I didn't, a lot of them don't. Teenagers are gonna act out, and if you keep putting all this pressure on him, and if everything in his life is done for other reasons and not just because it benefits him, what's the point of being privileged if you can't even, like, no one has suggested that him coming to this school would be good for him.
Vi ses ju snart.
They love each other, I'm sure, but it's a messed up kind of love.
Ja, men jag måste gå nu.
Hälsa mamma och pappa.
If your parents cared, they'd have dropped you off here. I mean, maybe if they're the king and queen, I don't know. They can't, but...
Du känner inte någon som kan fixa alkohol? Ni har väl någon sån här spritbil eller någon langare?
Why? Because he's not rich?
Hur får ni sprit?
Stay far away. I mean, don't stay far away from Wilhelm, but stay far away from the rest of them. They're all feeling different types of pressure.
Alltså tillhör August inte kungahuset på samma sätt som vi.
Does it matter? Just be happy in your life.
Tekniskt.
Everything is a lie to make everything seem perfect.
Kan du sätta dig lite ordentligt? Det är inte så trevligt vid matbordet.
Going to that school make them feel like they're not as good as the rich people, because fuck that.
Vi blev bjudna på en fest.
Blev ni?
Mm.
Hade någon
do
som
it.
skolan fixar? Och var det bättre än vad hon ser?
Don't lie to your mom. I know you want to make her feel better, but she should know the reality of what your lives are like.
Ja, det är verkligen skittråkigt. Jag tyckte det lät ganska soft. Ja, jag håller med. Det är rätt skönt.
Sjukt nice att bara chilla.
God, sycophants.
Ja, jag vet vi också. Ni
Yeah.
får ha en egen åsikt, det är lugnt.
Uh-huh. I know you want to impress him or whatever, but you don't have to.
Så låt oss alla se till att prinsen känner sig extra.
Maybe while he's here you could just call him by his name, like all the other kids.
Skolan som undrar om jag kunde köpa ut sprit till någon invigningsfest.
Well, I'm scared about the word initiation in this party.
Det är inte direkt.
Did you speak to him at all, Mother? At any point, one-on-one with your child or his dad? About how he's feeling, about the real reason you want him to go to this school, about how it could be good, and all the rest of the stuff you could say?
Alltså skatteflykt, då har man ju tjänat massa pengar. Och de har i alla fall bidragit till något i samhället.
God's sake, this is a place full of shit people. Children being raised by shit people.
Ja, alltså bidragsfuskare är ju ingenting tillbaks.
Oh my god, I just could not sit in this
Ja, alltså, om
class.
man skulle sänka de höga skatterna skulle inte företagen behöva flytta ut sina
God,
verksamheter.
this is a place for privileged, unprincipled people.
Flykt och bidragsfusk. Det är okej när rika fuskar, men när fattiga gör det så är det fett.
Exactly.
Det heter ju inte ens bidrag för de... Ja, jag vet ju vilka de största bidragstagarna i vårt land är.
Yes, I love Simon. I love Simon. I'm sorry, I don't want to call him Simon because that's not how he pronounces his name, but I will probably not be pronouncing Simon right either. Because his name isn't Simon. I already love Simon though. And as much as I don't tend to like privileged princes, Wilhelm seems, you know, he's struggling and he's like he's got a decent head on those shoulders.
Väl hälsat mig, jag heter Wilhelm.
He knows. But it was so nice of him to just let him introduce himself.
Det du sa där inne. Simon.
Ville, är du snäll och kommer över en...
He's not allowed to have his own opinion on things.
Vi ses
But
sen.
you know what? Having people like him and like if he's got a mind on him that doesn't just accept the party line, he could grow up to be someone that could watch the monarchy and that could be the best thing for everybody. God, special treatment already because he was speaking to the kid that wasn't like because he was speaking to someone that was lesser than him in the social standing.
Situationer. Så hör jag av mig. Okej? Fett.
You don't want to go to this party. I mean, you do because Wilhelm will be there, but you don't want to go to this party. with these kids. You want to just get in here, get a good education, if this is what your family decided is best, and get the fuck out. I question the quality of the education beyond the amount of money thrown into it.
Och jag skulle behöva för en fest.
Well, his kid came to see him to ask for booze and not for anything else.
Alltså ringde till mig.
När man skulle impa på någon tjej.
Yes,
Jag är
that.
gay, pappa.
Ja, förlåt.
Good. Just out with it, like, yeah, come on, stop being an idiot. But yeah.
Vad fan, det är klart farsan fixar festen.
No, that's not the right answer. I mean, okay, I'm not like completely against the concept of kids drinking, like, if it's done responsibly. This party is not going to be responsible. And at this school, if they're found with booze, they'll turn around and say, oh yeah, it was the kid from the poorer background that did it. I already cared very deeply about someone. I don't get this kind of initiation. Oh, hazing, isn't it fun? Parents, this is definitely a great place to send your kid. Where you know stuff like this happens. See, if this kind of behaviour happens, report it, kids. Get them expelled. Yes, that's not a good thing. That's the kind of experience he should be having. This was not my teenage experience. I mean, she feels like she has to, and that is disgusting, but...
Jag måste gå.
It is hard to be young, especially when you go to a school like this one. They are very sweet. I'm guessing he's gay but never told anyone because he's royal.
Om när jag sjöng.
Your singing is beautiful.
Det var fint. Det var så många röster liksom. Det var som sjöng från hjärtat ändå liksom.
Trivs du här?
Yep. No one's actually asked him that. Down, you're glowing. Okay, I really enjoyed that first episode. As much as I am someone that rages against the rich and monarchies, and I think monarchies should be abolished, and I think the rich should not exist, we should eat them. Obviously I have more nuanced takes and just eat them, but we should eat them. I do really enjoy shows set in this world because this world is so ludicrous, and when you watch it and when you see these kids sitting there and being like, yes, well, my daddy got his money from his daddy and therefore he deserves to have no taxes. Basically, it just sounds so ludicrous. But in general, the world they live in is so alien to anything human and real. I do enjoy seeing shows set in this, and I think the concept of this show being about a prince who is struggling with his place in the world and in the monarchy and with who he is a very interesting one. And you know, going into it, I did know that he was gay. I wasn't entirely sure who the character he would fall for was, and that was an absolute delight of a character to me. And everything's very clear. Monarchies should be abolished. There is no reason in our day and age to have a monarchy. No one needs one. If you go on tourism, I visit palaces in countries that no longer have monarchies. If there's a castle from the past, I'll go visit it. I love castles. I don't care about seeing the monarchy. So yeah, I'm very much anti-monarchy just because their family happened to sit on a throne a couple of years ago. Now they get to stay there. And then when you look at individually, both if you look at the real world, what it does to people, I mean, you've got the the firm, or whatever they call themselves in the UK, covering up Prince William's affairs and painting them as the perfect family, and Kate is getting thinner and thinner and thinner. So unhealthy. You have everything they did to treat Meghan and Harry. Now, I have mixed feelings about Meghan and Harry, because I have mixed feelings about the entire royal establishment. I have very strong anti-feelings. But you see the way they were treated, utterly disgusting. And if you think back to, in a way, some of both Wilhelm's behaviour and his relationship with his brother reminded me of kind of news stories and stuff you would see about Harry and William when they were younger. Obviously, I don't know very much about any other royal families. I know there is a Swedish royal family. I don't know what scandals or whatever they have, what the general public opinion of them is, or anything like that about the real one. But I can only really compare it to the British one, because that's the one that I am stuck with. It reminds me a lot of that. And, there are various times in the past where there have been these stories in the paper about Harry, he dressed as a Nazi at a party and getting drunk and doing dumb shit, privileged, spoiled little rich boy things that just made you just frustrate. But at the end of the day, he was young, he was a kid. I'm not going to write him off forever on it. More just the concept of him being a prince makes me want to write him off forever. But it is hard to grow up with that kind of pressure, and especially in the world nowadays where you have people following you everywhere, your every move is documented. And even at school, a school full of privileged rich kids, the kids still treat him differently. They're still they say, oh, I hate McDonald's. Not that any of these kids have ever had McDonald's, but it's a thing that came into my brain, so we're going to stick with it. They would say, I hate McDonald's. He would say, I like McDonald's. And then the kids go, oh, I like McDonald's too. That's not how life works. And even the you sort of think within the walls of this school, he should just be Wilhelm. He should just be one of the kids, and it shouldn't be treated any differently. But of course, this is a school that built on and thrives on privilege. Private school should also be abolished. Socialism. I am a socialist, so yeah. This is a lot to get me going in this episode. But I think this show so far has done a really good job of showing you why Wilhelm was acting out, why he was at some party that no kid should be at really, and why he got into a fight with someone. Probably part of him was hoping his family would actually speak to him for once, because literally at no point in that did we see his parents or his brother sit down and talk to him about why he did what he did, how he was feeling, actually sit down and be cross with him for one thing. It was literally just, oh, our PR people have written you a speech, this decision's been made for you, we're not doing it because we think you would benefit from this education, we're doing this because we think our image would benefit from you being out of the way in this school, where we could be like, oh look, we're reforming him, it's all fine. And it's utterly disgusting. Nobody should grow up that way. Nobody should have to learn to deal with it. Yes, he has an extreme position of privilege, so I am not gonna, there are definitely a lot of elements of his life where I'm gonna be like, oh, sad little rich boy, if he's moaning about them. But at the end of the day, no one should have to go through the kind of pressures that he is going through as a kid, and that his brother had to go through as well. And these boys at this school, and these girls, most of them are vile. The things they have already come out with and said just make you want to scream. Just stand on top of a cliff and scream. Just send all the rich people to their own fucking island and be like, just eat your money. Off you go. But I think it's very interesting to see Wilhelm see someone who is struggling to find his place in the world, who doesn't want to be part of this family, who just wants to be normal. Now, I don't think he's ever really has a real understanding of what being normal is, but I imagine he just wants a life where he's not the prince, a life where his family put each other first and not their image, a life where his parents yell at him or ground him if he does something wrong, kind of a normal life. And I also enjoyed the fact that in that lesson you could kind of see when the other rich kids were talking about how tax evasion was this perfect saintly thing to do, and benefit fraud was terrible, it was a scam, these people were the spawn of the devil. You could kind of see Wilhelm was sitting there and he did look a little bit uncomfortable. He did look like, I don't agree with what you're saying, but he's been conditioned. You don't have an opinion on politics, you don't have an opinion on social issues, you don't have an opinion on anything, because your opinion is whatever the firm says, and the firm says we have no opinion on anything. But I did like that you see moments like that where he is kind of like, what the fuck are you talking about? I also really respected Simon for laughing at them and then outright calling them out, because the biggest receiver of benefits are rich people. But yeah, it was just, I think that moment where it was both the moment where he saw Simon singing and he could hear the annoying rich people being like, sing louder, clearly this kid doesn't fit in, he's bullied a bit, he's at least ostracized from the rest of the group, and it's because he's a non-res I don't know what the situation is, whether like his family can afford the tuition fees, maybe there's, or whether it's scholarships. I just kind of imagine that this kind of school, a school that they would send a prince to, would be like the most extortionate fees ever. Private school should not exist. But regardless, there's definitely that divide between, you know, all the poor kids, the non-res kids, the kids that just, you know, they're not us, they're not as rich as us, they're not as good as us, and it's utterly ludicrous, you know. But in general, I enjoy it was the moment when he saw him singing and he was like, he took note of his voice and what it meant, and that he was singing from the heart, even though he could tell he was being bullied, or being ostracized by the rest of the group. And then in that lesson, he was, you know, impressed with what he had to say. He agreed with it, and impressed, I guess, as well. I mean, I was impressed that he was saying it, because that could just put a target on your back from all of these snobbish rich people you're surrounded by. Could just try and make your life hell, because they could murder someone and get away with it, as they said. And then obviously, when he wanted to go and sit with him and talk to him about it, and then at a party, like finding him and like wanting to talk to him, I guess part of it is probably he sees him as a normal person. He sees him as someone who has the normal life that he's always wanted, that isn't attached to all of these nonsense things and these nonsense scandals and everything. Because even Felice, her plan wasn't, oh yeah, I'm having fun looking at this picture, I'm thinking a lot about this boy because I think he's cute, because I fancy him, because I think he's, you know, a tortured soul or whatever. Like, she didn't actually at any point in her reasoning for why she was obsessed with him, it was nothing to do with him. It was to do with the fact that he was a prince and that their children would be princes. It was literally just, I want a royal family member, that's the one that's closest in age to me, that's the one I'm going to go for. Which shows you the kind of moral message and like that her parents have instilled in her, that don't just be happy, it's find yourself a prince. I do wonder, like I said, I'm not huge on what it's like in Sweden. You kind of picture Scandinavia as being better than the rest of Europe, is my general perception of Scandinavia, is that like that is the place that if I could learn other languages and wasn't a terrible English person who cannot learn languages to save her life, I would want to move to Scandinavia because it just seems better. Although obviously freedom of movement is no longer a thing, thanks Brexit. But I don't know what it's like, whether I assume it's better but more progressive. But I suppose a prince coming out as gay would be a big thing, because I know here there has never been, I mean, there have been some very obviously gay royals, but there's never been an openly gay royal. It would be a big thing, I suppose, publicity wise. And you kind of contrast that to Simon, who, yeah, his dad, which obviously he's got a complicated family life, saying to him, oh, was it for a cute girl? And he's like, Dad, I'm gay. Like, he was able to just be like, he wasn't, even this dad that he has this kind of strained, weird relationship with, he's able to correct him and be like, God's sake, Dad, I'm gay, I've told you. It's interesting to kind of see, like, the different types of, like, and it's not privilege on Simon's part in the slightest, but the different types of, like, you know, good things in your life that you maybe take for granted that are different, if that makes sense. There are some things in Simon's life that are better than in Wilhelm's life, although obviously money just literally, any scandal gets washed away. If he wants something, he can have it. If his parents don't have to like find out a way to get them to that school or work double shifts or do anything, and yet they still don't care about their kids. I'm very interested to learn more about Simon as well. What we've seen of him, I loved. He seems, you know, like he has his principles and his beliefs, and he's not being changed by them. You know, we kind of saw his sister being all like, oh, the place, like, we should have our place sittings like this. This is how the table should be set. And, you know, oh, Mum, can't you sit up straight? Like, you kind of see that she was almost going to these schools is making her feel less in some ways, making her feel like she wants to be more like the people she's around, rather than for Simon, you kind of get the impression that he looks at them, and maybe I should just call him Simon because I sound really pretentious when I don't, but like that's not his name. His name isn't Simon. His name is Simon. I'm sorry. For him, he looks around and he's like, my God, these people are so ridiculous. Yes, I think he probably does want to fit in and wants to have friends because he's human, but he doesn't want to change who he is, and I hope it stays that way. I worry about his sister because I feel like she could lose herself trying to be like them unless she can't ever be like them, because unless you are lucky, get freaking lucky, you get rich, or you're born into it. You can't ever know that kind of privilege, and you shouldn't want to either, because those are messed up individuals. But I'm intrigued to learn more about Simon, to learn about, you know, So his dad sells booze, and then talking about moonshine. Is his dad like a drug dealer, or like does he sell illegal booze? Are there like strict booze laws? They use the word booze a lot in the show in Sweden. So obviously his dad's into some stuff. Maybe his dad's an alcoholic. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. But obviously his family aren't together. Seeing his dad always makes him depressed, is what his friend said. So obviously there's a complicated history there that I would like to learn more about, because I want to know more about what makes Simon tick. And I do want to see more of Simon and Wilhelm spending time together, but it's also going to be very difficult given that if, you know, he's never left alone for a second and everyone is aware of where the prince is and what the prince is doing and who the prince is talking to, and Simon is not the right sort. This was a very promising first episode. I'm going to continue to be frustrated by rich people and monarchies throughout this show, but that's okay. Also really enjoying it. I'm very attached to the two young leads at the moment as well. I'm very excited to learn more. So yeah, also initiations and hazings are ridiculous and stupid. Thank you so much, Tim, for sponsoring, and thank you for watching.